Hi, my name is Jay Oza. I coach people win with their speeches. And I hope you're learning from the videos that I'm recording. And if you ever need help with your high stakes speech, let me know. Today I want to talk about a speech that most of us don't really think it's even a speech. It's one of those things where we think like, oh, he's so good thinking on his feet or her feet. It's the impromptu speech. I always say the most important speech is the introductory speech, because if you don't get off to a good start, you may never have to give any more speeches, at least with that one person or with an audience. But the most speech that's fraught with disaster is the impromptu speech. And the reason is that most people don't think of this as a speech. They think like, if you ask me a question, I'll magically think on top of my feet and come up with a real clever answers. Most of us, this is really doesn't apply because unless we're in a very visible position, whether we are an executive or a politician, where people are constantly being videotaped when they're answering questions, it becomes apparent that most of the gaffes occur when they are speaking off the cuff. Now, we do that all the time too, but we might offend one person, tick off a few people here and there. But you never really want to speak on top of your feet. That is a misnomer. I don't know who came up with that. It's a recipe for disaster. Just recently, I think a few weeks ago or months ago, the Veterans Administrator, Bob McDonald, somebody asked him a question about the waiting period. And he gave an answer, thinking on top of his feet, where he compared waiting veterans who need medical care to people who wait on lines to get on a ride at Disneyland. Now that's an unfortunate comparison. I'm sure if he had a chance to think about it, he probably wouldn't compare those two. But here is a high powered person in this important position, and that's what came to his mind, and he made that comparison, and it was an unfortunate comparison that caused him a lot of grief. People were mad, politicians were mad, a lot of grandstanding taking place, and he had to apologize. But it just sucks up so much of your time when you don't really prepare ahead of time what you're going to say. Yeah, you might come across a little robotic sometimes, but do not engage in saying things that you haven't already thought about. Otherwise, you're going to create a major gaffe. Whether it's a position at work, people tend to remember that. Or a high powered position, whether you are a business leader or a politician. That brings me to an example of Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton probably is one of the most competent speaker that's out there. She has been in limelight for a long, long time now. Most of us think of Hillary Clinton since when she was helping her Bill Clinton get elected as the president in 1992. So they were obviously running in 1991. But prior to that, she was a First Lady of Arkansas when he was a governor. And prior to that, she was a successful lawyer. She has a degree from Yale Law School. So she has been speaking in high-powered situation for a very long time. I think she's probably the most competent speaker that we have in America. Yet, she makes mistakes, especially when she's asked a question. And most of her mistakes occur with impromptu. And you remember a while back she said something about, we were dirt poor when we left the White House. Bad choice of words, unfortunate. These are very successful people. They were not going to be homeless, okay? They might have been poor, but poor is what? Like there are companies out there in Silicon Valley, they don't earn any money, yet they're filthy rich. So I don't know, it didn't go well with people, and they had to backtrack and apologize and all that. It creates a narrative that when you're giving an impromptu speech, most likely you're going to make a mistake unless you have done some preparation on exactly what you want to say. And she's been having real difficulty explaining her private email server that she had when she was the Secretary of State. And she's tried all kinds of answers, and it just hasn't worked out. And it just makes her look like she's not telling the truth. But finally, she did come up with an answer that shows that they have been really giving some careful thought on how she should answer that question. And this appeared in the Washington Post, which I will provide the link if you're interested. You can read it. And it was an article by Chris Saliza. And I thought it was an excellent article. He doesn't address this as an impromptu, but how she answered the question. So I'll read it actually. I have it in my index card. So this was a question that was posed to her by Chuck Todd on MSNBC Meet the Press Daily. And the question had to do with a report that had come out regarding her private email server. And here's how she answered it. I'll try to do the best I can reading it like Hillary Clinton, not with her accent or anything. So here's how she answered it. Quote, I said this many times. It was still a mistake. If I could go back, I would do it differently. And I understand people have concerns about this, but I hope and expect voters to look at the full picture of everything I've done and stand for, and the full threat posed by Donald Trump. If they do, I have faith in the American people that they will make the right choice. Unquote. Okay. That's a good answer. May not be the best answer, but that's as good as she's going to get at this point. So what does she do that is so effective here? This one answer, impromptu, does so many things for her that she hadn't been able to do in the past, partly because they hadn't prepared. You can tell this required a lot of preparation, and there's a lot of people that worked on this. Okay, so the first thing she does, very important, she admits she made a mistake. One, admit your mistake. She does that. She says that right there. I said this many times, it was still a mistake. Okay, that's great. Then she does the second thing, which is, even though I'm admitting a mistake, I understand that people have real concerns. But don't just focus on this one thing that I already admit it's a mistake. Look at my entire record, my entire service as a First Lady of Arkansas, as a First Lady of United States, Senator, Secretary of State, humanitarian, you name it. She's got a tremendous record that one can look at. Don't focus on this one mistake that I made, okay? That is pretty good. That's pretty, makes sense that she does have she's not telling anything here that's not true. For some people, this mistake disqualifies her. Those people aren't going to vote for her. So what she's targeting here are not the hardcore Republicans who are never going to vote for her anyway, no matter what she did. Even if she didn't have this issue, they weren't going to vote for her. This is to make sure that the Democrats are enthusiastically supporting her, and also independents who would support her, and there may be a few disaffected Republicans that she might be able to attract if they understand that her reasoning makes sense. And then the third thing she does is, okay, so I made a mistake, but look at my total record. Don't dwell on this one thing that I've done. The third thing she says, but the alternative is also something you have to look at. Yeah, so I made a mistake. You might say, okay, that disqualifies her. Or you can say that I got a total record to look at. And if that doesn't please you, but then there's a third thing is that look who I'm competing against. I'm competing against Donald Trump. Do you want him to be the president? So that's how she answered it. I think this is as best as she's going to be able to do. But as you can see, that this impromptu was really well crafted, where there is a mistake, there are some concerns, but you got a total record to look at. And even if that doesn't please you, you're going to elect Donald Trump just because of these two. I mean, she's kind of telling you to weigh the different options you have available here. And if you're not going to like me, you're going to have to choose the better of the two candidates, the lesser of the two evils, as they say. So she kind of covers just about everything in this one answer. But the point that, the reason I bring this up is that we always think of impromptu as something that we can just come up in an instant and give an answer. An impromptu can cause you more problems than solve problems. And to avoid that, you really have to tighten your answers so that there is a clear message that you're sending. You do not want to wing it. Wing it is a recipe for disaster, as I said before. You really have to think through these questions that are likely to come up and how are you going to answer it, and the way you answer it. You really, really have to practice, because, like I said, impromptu speeches are the most dangerous speeches because most people don't think they ever have to prepare for them. This happens at an interview, that happens with in a social setting, any kind of setting. You really have to be careful how far you go with this. If you haven't thought about something, it is better to just not even bring it up, because you're likely to make a gaffe. And people tend to remember, as you know, in media, they don't. You could be talking in an interview for an hour. It's the gaffe that gets the attention. Everybody focuses on the gaffes, and that's what you have to try to avoid. It's hard, but you got to practice this. Otherwise, you're going to become a gaffe machine. And after a while, people start, painting a narrative which is not very complimentary to you. So, to avoid all that, spend some time, write down all the questions, keep practicing them, rehearsing them, how you're going to answer, so that it's second nature. Whenever you're asked these questions, it's second nature. The area that most of us need to work on for this, unless we are moving up, which I hope everybody is job interviews. Job interviews is where you really need to write down 10 top questions that are likely to come up, and you got to have a crisp answer. You don't want to just go on and ramble on. Crisp answers, like the way Hillary Clinton just demonstrated, and that is very effective. It will make you look smart, and people will start thinking that you're not only smart, but you're competent and you can get the job done. Most likely you'll get a job offer. Let me know what you think about this, and thank you for watching.